Welcome back to the 13th video about my dual engine control lever IP68 project. In the previous video, we milled down and squared up this large POM block 2 dimensions, and we also put the first holes into it. Card here, link in the description. In this video, I want to mill and drill all the required features in the bottom of that block. Enjoy! And there's a whole lot going on at the bottom of that block. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 5mm holes, later on threaded to M6, so we can screw the block onto some console or something. Then we have this large cutout here, which will house the electronics, and at the center of it we have another hole threaded for M3. And then we have here 2 slots, the first not very deep, 3mm, and then a deeper one here. That's basically for getting the cable out and having a strain relief for the cable screwed down onto the cable. Let's start by marking these big 4 holes. They are 30mm from one edge and 33mm from the other. So 4 lines at 30mm and 4 lines at 33mm. Let's continue with that hole directly at the center. That's simple, so just 2 center lines here at 50mm and 44mm. I do the center line over the 44mm center line over the whole face, because you never know when you need a center line. And I turn that around and draw it again just to see how exact we have been working. And yeah, you can see it. We were quite on the spot with the 88mm in that dimension. We do the same for the 50mm center line, sorry. Also turn that around just to see if we're on spot. And yeah, we are. Next feature would be that deep pocket here. Yeah, that's going in really deep. 29mm deep to be exact in the end. But for now we only need the outside borders here. So 40mm away from these edges and 25mm away from those edges. So 40mm and 25mm. The next feature would be these 2 M2 holes, so initially 1.6mm drilled. That's the first asymmetrical feature, or it's only symmetrical in one axis here. And the center of these holes are 37mm from that edge, and then each 38.5mm from these edges. And that would be a single 37mm mark and 2 little 38.5 marks. There's also that aforementioned slot here, and I need some lines so I know where I have to stop milling. And these are 35.5mm from the edges. 35.5. Finally, I need a marking to know when to end this slot here. at 26 millimeters from that edge. Last mark for now at 26. Yeah, I know, looks a little bit confusing, but it's exactly what we had here on the drawing. And yes, I will double and triple check before each operation on the mill that I'm really using the right lines here. We're back in the milling machine again, and I will start with these 5 millimeter holes. I already did 4 5 millimeter holes in the previous video, so I won't film that. By the way, I can drill down here to the maximum depth of my 5 millimeter drill bit here, and it will be approximately the right size. The depth here is really not critical. I have 4 deep 5 millimeter holes now, and a whole lot of very long interesting chips. And by the way, the 5 millimeter drill gets really hot when doing these deep holes into POM. Next, I'll do the center 2.5 millimeter hole for M3. With my 2.5 millimeter drill, I probably won't be able to reach all the way down where I wanted to. The depth is not really critical, but we have that big cutout here. And the important thing is at the bottom of the cutout, I have at least the start of a 2.5 millimeter hole. So if the need arises later, we can align using a 2.5 millimeter drill again to that hole, and then just make it a little bit deeper. I aligned my center drill here. You see me do that often enough, so now we just drill our pilot hole. And then follow up with a 2.5 millimeter drill bit. And this drill bit also gets very hot and the chips tend to stick to it. I lined up for the first of the 2 remaining 1.6 millimeter holes with the center drill. And now we drill it. Oh, do the pilot hole. And we follow that up with a 1.6 millimeter drill bit. Don't worry, the drill bit is smaller than the pilot hole, at least here at the top, but we will mill off 3 millimeters in depth at that position. Okay, I will repeat that now for the second one. I don't film that. Now we drilled all 7 holes and we can start with the milling operations. Since the last holes we drilled were these one, so our head is already lined along this line, we mill this little 3 millimeter deep slot first. And you see here that the the order of your operations is important here. Also, it's much easier to drill all the holes while you have a flat surface than to drill the holes, especially here in that deep pocket, after you milled out here some features in the surface. Okay, we're in the mill. I have an end mill in and I will touch off here and then go 1 millimeter around and then to my end marking here. I hope I can see that. I will probably be able to see it. And I will count the turns on the wheels and then I'll go 1 millimeter down and back and then again 1 millimeter down and I return. The depth here is not really critical. If it's a 1/10 of a millimeter more or less, it doesn't matter. Can't really see with all these chips where my marking is. And I forgot to count. Okay, another millimeter down. Another millimeter down. And back we go. Sorry, had to move the camera a little. I overshot here on that marking a wee bit, so I will do the same on the other side, so the slot is at least symmetric. Looks good to me. Now for that rounded slot here, and it's rounded at the bottom too, and it's 7 millimeters deep. I will first line up my head on, this center line here using a center drill, visually line up here on the center line, and then we mill it. We are lined up nicely on the center line, and I locked the y-axis. Same game, I will touch off here outside my slot area. I mean, we will be milling here a deep pocket anyway. And then I will advance 1 millimeter down and then go to not quite my marking, because this is a round end mill. And go down a millimeter and so on. 7 times about it until I'm at 7 millimeters. Just change the camera perspective so I have a better view here on the monitor actually what's going on, because it's quite hard to see here inside the mill. Now for the big pocket. I guess I will first rough it out. Don't go right up to my markings, and don't go quite up to a depth of, what do we need? 29 millimeters. And then when I roughed it out, and keep a look if my hole here is still visible, I will get to the dimensions slowly but surely. I have the end mill with the long flutes in, 6 millimeter diameter, and now I will rough that thing out. I don't know if I film the whole process. We'll see. Advancing here 2 millimeters because, we have to go down 29. Okay, I will make now 13 more passes like that, and I won't film it. Or maybe I give you something in between. Okay, the last rough cut that should get me down to 28.5 millimeters. And I have to admit I got danger close to the marking here in the back. So while I'm doing that, I developed kind of a strategy, a rhythm. So I first manually go to the back here until my tool is scratching. Then I go to the left until my tool is scratching, because I'm also very close to that marker here. And then I start milling in this direction until almost to the corner. Then I clean up the chips so I see what I'm doing. Then I go to the corner and go forward, almost reaching the corner, cleaning up, so I see what I'm doing, advancing a little bit more, going here, cleaning up, advancing a little more, going down here, and then I do 2 clean up passes in the middle. I'll just show you that. Now for the finishing cuts. If I measure the depth here, I'm now at, well, that's a problem, between 28 and 28.2. Yeah, depends where I measure, and this is not a very exact method here. So I will first go in without touching the walls and go down 0.9 millimeters more and just clean up the bottom, and then we clean up the faces, the sides. Sorry, I noticed too late that, the camera was not perfectly set up. Overexposure as always, so you can see the black block. I try to measure here at the back, and maybe you can even see that there's a little step in here. But I can't take off more than 1/10 of a millimeter at the back. So let's try that to clean up that internal face here. Okay, I think I cleaned up that step as good as I can. I will now repeat that with all 4 sides. I won't film that. It's a tedious business. Let's cut some threads, and we're starting with the M3 hole here at the center, and I'll show you my setup in a second. I hope I can work that without getting into the way of the camera. That didn't work so well, did it? I put my tap here into the chuck, but I still can't reach into that hole. Let's try this contraption then. That's the handle from that bit set, and I wrapped some layers of tape around the shaft of the tap so it will grab in here, hopefully strong enough. Let's try it. As you might have seen in the second pass, my tab separated from my handle, and I had to coax it out quarter turn by quarter turn with a pair of pliers. Okay, let's do the final cut. I don't know if you were able to see it, but on the final cut I also had to extract my tab with the pliers. Now we're going for the 2 little M2 threads here. I've used that technique before. I just released the return spring off the head of my milling machine and just let the weight of the head press down slightly here and help me to center up my tab. And just a little detail, that's here, that axis, that's just a 2 millimeter drill turned around. So I have something round sticking out here. That was a little less than 5 minutes for a 3-pass and manual M2 thread. Not too shabby. And I will do the second one off camera. I'll do the M6 threads, 4 of them, with my brand spanking new machine tab here. card here, link in the description, because first, it's faster than a manual 3-pass trap, and second, I can reach a little bit deeper into the hole with that machine tab. I'll do the other 3 off camera. So, all 7 threads are cut, and yeah, the slots, they look okayish, not perfect, but okayish. Yeah, I worked over all the edges with a knife to deburr them, and yeah, this is not quite a straight line, but otherwise the pocket looks quite okay, I think. Yeah, but for that little detail where I went a little bit too far. But the most interesting question now is, of course, does my electronic fit in here? And yes, it does. That's the most important thing. That's it for today. It's a good time to take a break after we finished all features in that phase here, because next time we will have to do these large cutouts here at the sides. So here, and I really have to think about that, how I want to do that. I certainly will not mill everything down here or in here. That's simply too much material. It would take too long, so I will saw out at least roughly some material and then put it back into the mill. However, we are here at 100 millimeters in length, and I have to see if I, or 67 millimeters here, and I'll have to see if my mill can really handle that. It can handle it, probably, but in which orientation. So, till next time, bye.